didn't see you there. Just getting caught up on the greatest prospect franchise in the NHL. That's right. The Sens are number one, and they're starting to look like it. This team is a lot like a locomotive. The season began and they're slowly chugging. They start to kind of build a little bit of steam, and all of a sudden they just run right off the tracks. They finally get themselves put back on the track, and now chugga. Woo! Look out, boys! The Sens are coming! This team started the season 2-12-1. Since then, they're 15-14-3. If the Sens had played at that kind of pace all season, they'd be right on the edge of a playoff spot right now. I say all that to say, let's be honest here. Lately, the Sens haven't given me much reason to hate them. And this week, they gave me none at all. The Sens have had some good weeks this season. They've gone undefeated in at least one week this season. But there was not a single week all year long that was better from start to finish than this week was. They were excellent against Montreal, terrific against Calgary, and fantastic against Vancouver. Plus, they just picked up 2 shutouts in a week. Been more than 2 years since they'd picked up their last one. Let's get into it.
Well, that could have gone a lot worse.
Oh, thank you. Tie the game, go to overtime, lose. Way to tie up the stick in front. Not. Oh, boy. And just like that, 6-5, the Sens win!
That was just bad. And here we go. They got their dub. Not anymore.
They got a guy with the best name in sports. A guy with the name Brady! The Sens kicked off their week with a dominating destruction of the Montreal Canadiens. The Canadiens may have looked a little flat in this game, but the Sens gave them absolutely nothing. Artem Zub opens the scoring for the Sens early in the game after a Drake Batherson shot hits Joel Edmondson in the face. That stands up until the second period when Drake Batherson adds another, and then in the third, Batherson scores on the power play, Zaitsev hits the empty net to give Shane Pinto his first career NHL point, and the Sens skate away with a 4-0 win. The really shocking or odd thing about this game was, quite frankly, there wasn't much of anything going on for either team. The teams combined for 38 shots in this game. Most teams hit that on their own in one game. I seriously couldn't believe it. We were about 10 minutes left in the third period, and the teams had combined for about 29 shots on goal. But you have to give the Sens a lot of credit in this game. They limited Montreal to 23 shots on goal. They were excellent in the face-off dot, terrific on the penalty kill, and even a lot of those 23 shots Montreal got. There weren't a lot of dangerous opportunities. You really couldn't ask for much more from this Sens team. Matt Murray was terrific. I thought the defense did a real solid job for the most part, and the forwards were excellent as well. A lot of the young guys were key contributors in this game, which was huge. Of course, you know me, and I can never just be perfectly satisfied with anything that happens. So the one concern I did have from this game, which was a big concern for the Sens most of this season so far, has been turnovers. The Sens gave the puck away 18 times in this hockey game. That's 6 times a period and almost once every 3 minutes. Anytime you turn the puck over 18 times in a hockey game, you're asking for trouble. Granted, sometimes giveaways can be kind of situational. Like if you turn the puck over behind the opposing team's net, you're not really in a lot of trouble and it's not the end of the world. The problem is, 8 of the 18 giveaways were by Sens defensemen. And generally speaking, those giveaways came in their own zone, which results in extra zone time for Montreal. It has been a concern for the Sens this season. Oftentimes they go back to get the puck. It doesn't matter who it is. Goodbranson, Brandstrom, Shabbat, Zaitsev, Riley. Doesn't matter who the defenseman is, whether they're still here or not. They go back to get the puck, and more often than I'd like, they just give it away to the other team. One of the biggest keys to hockey is clean breakouts. If you can quickly move the puck out of your zone and not give the team extra touches with the puck in your zone, you're going to be successful. Obviously, that's something the Sens will need to continue to work on Fortunately, they have a head coach who used to be a defenseman, so hopefully he's able to work on that with them. And if that is the case and they're able to get better over time, look out. Yet despite the fact they struggled in this hockey game moving the puck out of their own zone at times, they were still real strong. So I'm putting the NHL on notice now. Look out! And speaking of look out, Calgary might have wanted to do a better job of keeping their head up because they crossed center ice and got absolutely rocked by a red-hot Sens team. Brady Tkachuk opened the scoring with an excellent play in the first period. Elias Lindholm tied things up. The game stayed that way until late in the second period when Conor Brown scored a shorthanded goal. Josh Norris then would add a power play goal early in the third. The Sens would grab a 3-1 lead. Calgary would cut it back to 1. Conor Brown would hit the empty net, and the Sens would skate away with a 4-2 win. Interestingly enough, I think despite this being the only game of the week the Sens didn't shut out their opposition, this might have been the game I was most impressed with. Sens grab an early 1-0 lead in this hockey game. Barely a minute and a half later, Calgary scores a bit of an ugly goal to tie this game. Generally speaking, when these kinds of goals happen, it completely flips momentum in a hockey game. Credit the Sens in this one. They stuck with it, were patient, and scored the goals they needed to score at the key times to pick up the win. I thought a lot of the keys to the Sens in this hockey game was really smart hockey too. You look at the first goal, the Sens do an excellent job of pressing. Tkachuk is in a perfect spot up high, picks off the pass, makes an excellent move around the Calgary Flames defenseman, and snipes one by Jakob Markstrom to make it 1-0. The excellent puck pressure, the terrific defensive positioning, and then the excellent patience to outweight the Calgary defenseman. That's an awesome goal. And then again on the second goal, it's hard work and excellent defensive position that makes all the difference. Conor Brown makes an excellent read and a terrific defensive play at the blue line. Knocks down a pass and allows the Sens to race back the other way 2-on-1. Brown hits Paul with a pass inside the Flames' blue line. Paul takes a shot at the net. The puck is loose in the crease, and if Conor Brown does a flyby, this goal doesn't happen. Brown has the excellent presence of mind to stop, sit down in the crease, backhand the puck into the empty net, and give the Sens a huge shorthanded goal. Goal like that, less than a minute left in the period, shorthanded, off a Flames giveaway. That is a back-breaking goal for the opposition, and a terrific play by Conor Brown. The Sens then run into some penalty trouble in the third. 3 straight penalties within the first 6.5 minutes. But they're able to stay patient, kill those off. They finally get a power play of their own, and boom, it's in the back of the Flames' net. Like I said, patience and intelligence were keys to the Sens in this game. All 3 goals were excellent examples of that, and they were a big reason why the Sens won. Of course, you can't forget about the excellent play of Matt Murray. I'm thinking particularly a play in the second period. The Flames are on the power play. Gaudreau hits backdoor to, I think it was Matthew Tkachuk. Matt Murray comes all the way across the ice, makes an excellent save, and keeps the game tied. I remember thinking at the time, that's a game-turning save. Sure enough, it turned out to be just that. Of course, if there was anything not to like in this hockey game, and it's extremely nitpicky, their face-off percentage wasn't great in this hockey game. They had just one guy who had a face-off percentage above 50%, and that was Colin White, who is at 60%. Meanwhile, Calgary didn't have a single face-off guy under 50%. I mean, obviously face-offs aren't the be-all end-all to a hockey game. You can win despite losing the majority of the face-offs. The Sens did it in this hockey game. But the more time you spend chasing the puck, the less likely you are to win. So if the Sens can work on their face-off percentage, and quite frankly, they've actually been pretty good at face-offs this season, they'll have more success. Despite a subpar night in the face-off dot though, the Sens were excellent in this hockey game, so it's hard to be too upset. And speaking of it being hard to be too upset, that brings me to the final game of the week. Another excellent performance by the Sens. The Sens come out in this hockey game and are excellent to start. Tim Stützle and Drake Batherson score first period power play goals. The Sens cruise through the rest of this hockey game. Conor Brown hits the empty net in the last minute and a half, and the Sens easily beat the Canucks 3-0. The most impressive part of this hockey game for the Sens, and there were a lot of them, Stützle scored, Matt Murray was excellent, but the most impressive one of all, the Sens turned the puck over twice in this hockey game. 2 giveaways in 60 minutes. And even better than that, Brady Tkachuk had 1, Tim Stützle had 1. That means the Sens defensemen did not give the puck away at all in this hockey game. I mean, it was such an impressive display of puck possession from the Sens. They had more than twice as many takeaways as they had giveaways. Heck, on his own, Alex Formenton had twice as many takeaways as the Sens had giveaways. The Sens power play was terrific. They managed the puck unbelievably. The goaltending was great. The defense moved the puck well. There really wasn't much of anything to hate from this game. In fact, you know what? We're just going to keep it positive. Sure, Vancouver's coming back from COVID. They might be running out of gas after some high energy, high effort games against the Leafs. But the Sens looked excellent in this game, and I'm not even going to bother nitpicking. So that's going to bring me to our 3 stars of the week. And let me tell you, this might have been the most difficult 3 stars for me to pick this week. Some weeks the Sens have been good and I've had some difficulty. Some weeks the Sens have been really bad and I've had some difficulty. But I'm not sure there's been a week where the Sens were this good and had this many excellent candidates. I mean, you look at Stützle. Stützle had a good week this week. He wasn't even considered. Shabbat was solid. Didn't think of him. I liked Zub's game. I liked Zaitsev's game. I liked Formenton's game. None of those guys were in the running. I thought there were 5 guys that had unbelievable cases to be in the 3 stars. Unfortunately, only 3 of them could make the cut. And the really crazy thing is, the 2 guys that didn't make the cut this week combined for 4 goals and 9 points. Imagine scoring 4 goals and 9 points in 3 games between 2 players and still not being one of the best players on the team this week. That's exactly the dilemma I ran into this week. And unfortunately, that meant both Drake Batherson and Brady Tkachuk weren't going to make the list. And before we actually get into who are the 3 stars this week, a special shout out to a kid who really impressed me this week. Shane Pinto got into his first NHL game against Montreal last Saturday, played again against Calgary on Monday, and again against Vancouver on Thursday. And while his game against Vancouver on Thursday wasn't the best I've ever seen, over the course of the week, I thought he was unbelievable. I thought he was really, really strong against Montreal. I thought he might have been even better against Calgary. And honestly, the defensive positioning, the work ethic, the poise, the skating, I've seen it all from him this week, and I'm really excited. Obviously, he's a young kid. He's going to go through his ups and downs, but this week was real impressive, and so he deserves a shout out for that. Now, let's get into this week's 3 stars. We start off with a guy who early in the year wasn't making this list a lot, but over the last few weeks, it's been really hard to keep him out of the 3 stars. He's on fire right now. He can't seem to be stopped by anybody. And this week's 3rd star is Ottawa Senators forward, Conor Brown. That bad man is back again. And no, it's not just because I love singing the song. Although, I do love singing the song. 'Cause he's bad, Conor Brown, baddest man in the whole downtown, badder than a whole King Kong, meaner than a junkyard dog. How does Conor Brown make it into the 3 stars this week? A bunch of people are asking. And with so many guys going so well this week, that is a fair point. But Brown did score 3 goals in 3 games this week. He was a key contributor to a Sens penalty kill that was excellent. In fact, they were perfect. And he was a key contributor to a Sens power play that also picked up a bunch of goals this week. That says nothing for the fact that he was unbelievable against the Flames, and it says nothing to the fact that without his shorthanded goal at the end of the second period, the Sens might not win that hockey game. So while Conor Brown may not have had the most flashy week this week, he still picked up 3 goals, and the role this guy plays 5-on-5 on the power play and while killing penalties, it's hard not to argue with him being in the top 3, and so for that reason, Conor Brown is this week's 3rd star. And that brings me to star number 2. Quite honestly, this guy was in a battle with Brady Tkachuk this week to be the 3rd guy in the 3 stars this week. This guy got the nod because he was the center, jumped ahead of Conor Brown because of him being a center and playing key minutes at a key position. So for that reason, this week's 2nd star is Ottawa Senators forward Josh Norris. Norris played somewhere between 17.5 and 18 minutes a night against some heavy competition while putting up 4 points, including 1 goal on an excellent shot on the power play to give the Sens a huge cushion against Calgary. He also finished the week +3, had a power play point in each game, scored the game-winning goal against Calgary. He helped shut out Eric Stahl, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and Nick Suzuki, and then helped shut out Brock Besser, Elias Pettersson, Bo Horvat, and the whole Canucks offense. Obviously, it takes a whole team effort to get the job done, but aside from the goalie, the most important position on the ice is probably the center. Norris was the number 1 center on a team that looked excellent, went a perfect 3-0. He picked up 4 points, and so for that reason, this week's 2nd star is Ottawa Senators forward Josh Norris. And that brings me to star number 1. I think it's pretty obvious, isn't it? 2 goals against in 3 games and 2 shutouts. This week's number 1 star is Ottawa Senators goaltender Matt Murray. Matt Murray has played 4 games since returning from a 35-day stint on injured reserve. The Sens are 3-1 in that time. He stopped 112 of 117 shots and given up just 5 goals in 4 games. Meanwhile, this week, like I mentioned, Murray had 2 shutouts, stopped 80 of 82 shots, was a perfect 3-0, gave up just 2 goals in 3 games, and was absolutely dominant at times. The Sens may not necessarily have rode their goalie and said, "You do it all," but Murray was excellent each and every time the Sens needed him to be, and without him, the Sens may not win 2 of those games. Certainly that Calgary, that sliding backdoor cross-crease save he made in the second period to keep the game 1-1, that was so huge. This is the Matt Murray the Sens traded for. This is the Matt Murray the Sens gave the long contract extension to. This is the Matt Murray Sens fans were excited about. And this is the Matt Murray who's the 1st star of the week. And this is the Matt Murray who absolutely deserves it. Matt Murray was unbelievable this week. And for that reason, he is star number 1. So to recap, Conor Brown is star number 3. Josh Norris is star number 2, and Matt Murray is star number 1. And that brings me to this week's most disappointing player. It pains me to do this because I love this guy, and I love seeing him in the Sens top 4 now. But I thought he struggled at times this week, especially in that Calgary game. I thought he had some rough moments. So this week's most disappointing player is Ottawa Senators defenseman Erik Brannstrom. Brannstrom turned the puck over 4 times against Montreal, turned it over 2 more against Calgary, took 2 penalties, was slow to react after Josh Brown fell down on the Flames' first goal, and generally just looked a bit like a fish out of water at times. I think part of Brannstrom's problem is he's just so small. He gets out-muscled off the puck so easily, and he just can't battle with anybody. Everybody seems to get body position on them, and there doesn't seem to be a lot he can do. I don't know if it's affecting his confidence, but it's definitely affecting his ability to defend. And quite frankly, it's a large part of the reason why he ends up getting so many penalties. He tries to battle positionally. He ends up getting a stick in the way because that's about all he can battle with. He ends up tripping or hooking or interfering. He ends up getting a penalty for something. I love Erik Brannstrom. I can't wait to see him get bigger and better, and I can't wait to see what he's going to look like on this Sens blue line in a few years. Unfortunately, he didn't have the greatest week this week, and for that reason, this week's most disappointing player is Erik Brannstrom. And that brings me to the week ahead for the Sens. And boy, is this boring. The Sens play 3 times this week, and all 3 games are against Vancouver. The Sens play in Vancouver Saturday at 10. The 2 teams then fly back across the country, play in Ottawa at 7 o'clock on Monday, and then play again at 5:30 in a special start time on Wednesday. Like I said, same team all week. How boring. So, like I said, the Sens and Canucks play 3 times this week. It's the last 3 games of the season between the 2 teams, and quite frankly, after the way the season series started between the 2 teams, I won't be sad to see the end of it. The Canucks currently lead the season series 5-1, having absolutely dominated the Sens in Vancouver prior to last night, of course, where they'd outscored Ottawa 16-3. So that first game against Vancouver Saturday night may or may not go all that well. But then the 2 teams go back to Ottawa, where the Sens have lost both games in extra time, both times 3-2. The Sens are a much better team since then, and the Canucks are getting over COVID. So I think the Sens stand a shot in both of those games. I would be shocked if the Sens didn't get at least 3, maybe 4 points this week. So after picking up a perfect 6 last week, let's hope they can get at least 3 this week. That's it for this video. Hit like if you liked it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share it with anybody you know, and let me know down below. What did you think of the Sens' effort this week? I thought it was their best week of the entire season. What say you? Let me know down below, and we'll see you next Saturday after 3 straight games against the Vancouver Canucks.